For a long time, the corroded railings around the U.S. Embassy on Havana Seafront matched the terse relations between Americans and their Cuban host. Now, the years of neglect on both sides are being addressed, in part thanks to a $28 million renovation project. But not without a few diplomatic challenges along the way, according to Benjamin Ziff, the top U.S. diplomat in Cuba.
The important thing to realize about diplomacy is it's not only policy, it's logistics. You need to have a presence, you need to have people, you need to have a building, you need to have an installation to be able to do diplomacy effectively. And we are on the Malecon, we are in front of the sea, which has its own effects on the building.
Some of those issues have now been resolved, particularly around worker visas, to be replaced by others. But Ziff still sees the refurb as critical investment in U.S. diplomacy on the island.
This was complicated as well by the Cuban visa policy, which was a single entry visa. So a technician or a contractor coming in, if he or she broke a saw blade, they'd have to return to the United States to procure another saw blade and then apply for a new visa, which could take 2 months. So you could see how difficult this process was, even when you could actually bring people in.
Former Cuban leader Fidel Castro often alleged the embassy was a hotbed of spies aiming to overthrow his government. That was not the motivation when it was built in 1953 in the wake of World War II, according to architectural historian Jane Loeffler.
There was great enthusiasm for the United Nations building in New York and the idea of what it symbolized. And it happens that the architects for that building were Harrison and Abramovitz, and they were the same architects who went on to design Havana and Rio for the State Department. And this was the impetus for this program, and Havana was just one of the very first buildings that the State Department built.
The building operated for years as the U.S. Interest Section before reopening as an embassy in July 2015 when diplomatic relations were restored under Barack Obama. But its staffing was cut sharply 2 years later after staff began to report a mysterious ailment dubbed Havana Syndrome. The Cuban government did not respond to a request for comment to the story, but some Havana residents have applauded the embassy overhaul.
Trabajo aquí enfrente de la embajada y he visto parte del proceso de restauración que le han hecho por dentro y por fuera. Y sí pienso que es importante, ya que es una de las embajadas más importantes que tiene nuestro país. Y lo visitamos muchos cubanos para salir de aquí, para viajar al exterior. Y pienso que sí, que debe tener ese punto de verse lo bastante bien para cuando a mí me toque visitarla igual esté en perfectas condiciones